Sorry, I got so caught up in.
Hey everybody!
What's up, y'all? It's another episode of Not Your Typical Girl Talk. And this is a discussion.
Today's discussion is going to be very interesting.
Very.
It's been a week for, for women. It's been a week for black women. It's been a week for people that are fighting the injustices of the world. And we definitely...
They shoot everything. They shot the whole place.
In the entire house. Without even saying who the hell you are.
No knock, no announcement. The clothing was unmarked. They just marched on in. The man did what he had to do.
And for me, I look at it like this, and I'm going to compare this to a case that I heard about long time ago. Like, I was in college when I heard this story, and the story is about a man who had a legal firearm in his home, and it was Halloween night.
Oh, Jesus.
Now, the one thing that happens Halloween night, as we all know, one kid is going to knock on the door for trick-or-treating.
Yep.
Stuff to sort of unpack today.
We do. We're going to unpack. We're also going to encourage and uplift and just keep the train going, because this is a can't stop. Oh, yeah, sure. This is a can't stop, won't stop.
That's it. Hello, Miss Cheetah.
Hi. Hello, ladies.
Let me know when.
A lot is up. We only have an hour to talk about what is up.
There's a lot, like Kirsty was saying, there's a lot to unload. And it's going to be severely unloaded today.
Listen, I tried to stick my eyelashes on real good because I didn't want it to come off, because I don't know. Between the anger and the pain of what happened this week, I'm like, these eyelashes, I'm not sure. So if I have to rip them off on camera, that's what we're going to do.
And so be it.
Okay,
There's no judgment here. There's no judgment here.
So, today's topic is basically to discuss the aftermath of the Breonna Taylor verdict, charges. I don't even know what to call it, because
I feel like yeah, and I think a lot of people have been having problems with that, because even for me, like, writing on social media the Breonna Taylor case, or
because the only thing that got justice was a wall. Like, Breonna wasn't even in it, so there was nothing. The wall got justice, not Breonna.
Which is why we called our show Breonna Taylor, the Wall of Justice.
Yeah.
Because listening to Daniel Cameron's, just had to pause because I want to say something more, but I won't. But listening to him go through the facts of the case, I understand why the family is now asking for the grand jury testimony, because I think everybody was clear, and I spoke to you ladies after finding out what I found out about Daniel Cameron prior to this verdict, whatever we want to call it, and now hearing also that right after this verdict announcement, whatever, he also got an endorsement from the Kentucky Police Department, right? And I think it's a high honor or something. And I was trying to find the speech, and maybe I can during the show, so pardon me that I turned around. But he did get an honor, and it's very interesting, his speech back to them, in terms of the fact that he, became the Attorney General in Kentucky to uphold the law and justice for police officers. I'm just gonna turn my.
You see where he lies. He's in bed with the police.
His interests lie in.
That's where he stands.
Yeah.
The only thing that's good to know is that we know now where he stands. He's
I'm just scratching my head. I feel like.
So definitely with him, not saying it's going to solve everything, but I do want to put early in the show that if you are an American, if you hold papers to live, work, and buy property in America, please make sure that you've taken the time to vote.
Vote.
All of
vote,
that.
vote. vote. Get people together and vote.
Put them
Get
in the
your
car,
neighbors
all of you.
together and
Yes.
vote. If you have a car, drive around your neighborhood
Fill
and
your
drive
car.
people to the polls and vote.
Fill your car with
Carpool.
people.
Put on your mask, carpool,
Pack
get
some
to the
crackers and
polls,
juice
and vote.
for those that are diabetic, and say, I'm going to be there with you today to support you as we all go and vote.
Go vote. Because clearly,
Because he's there because of votes. That's why he's there.
clearly there has to be a change. There has to be a change. Which reminds me, because I do want to play something for you guys.
Yeah, you said, I don't know.
And well, and it's funny because like we were talking about Daniel and where he, you know, we know where his stance is. I watched a press conference that they also did with Benjamin Crump as well as Tamika Mallory, who, as you know, is the activist for human rights and for Black Lives Matter, feminism. And I don't know if you guys heard her speech. Did you either of you hear her?
I did hear a bit of her speech because that's when I found out that Daniel Cameron had gotten this high honor from the police. I think it was almost like the very next day after the announcement.
Yeah, which was very shocking to me. And when she was speaking, luckily I was on the last leg of my workout. So I had my earphones on. But everything she said and what she said about him, it really made me say to myself, wow, this guy. But you know what? I'm going to play it. Let me just pull it up real quickly. Luckily, it's only like a minute and a few seconds.
I'm ready. Listen, girl, it could have been 5 minutes. I'm ready. Let's do this.
Long. Only because I don't want to take up much time with it.
No,
but
this is context.
hopefully
for the show.
everyone can hear it. And my phone right up here. And let's see. Oh wait, is this the right one?
Oh, it's gonna do the ads.
Oh, we need the ads. Okay, hold on. It's doing ads first.
Oh, is it from CNN?
This is from CNN, and then it's also from Now This News. Here we go.
Okay.
He mentioned at the press conference, which I thought was quite interesting, that he's a black man. And as I laid and cried and hurt for Tamika Palmer and for Breonna Taylor and for Kenny Walker and for Janiyah, who we need to love up on. As I laid there and I thought about him saying he's a black man, I thought about the ships that went into Fort Monroe and Jamestown with our people on them over 400 years ago. And how there were also black men on those ships that were responsible for bringing our people over here. Daniel Cameron is no different than the sellout Negroes that sold our people into slavery and helped white men to capture our people, to abuse them and to traffic them while our women were raped, while our men were raped by savages. That is who you are, Daniel Cameron. You are a coward. You are a sellout, and you were used by the system to harm your own mama, your own black mama. We have no respect for you. No respect for your black skin. Because all of our skin folk ain't our kinfolk. And you do not belong to black people at all.
All of that.
So, yes.
And then some.
So, amen to that. That is a word. That is gospel. And I fully agree. There are major issues with, you know, just because we all look alike means we're all on the same team.
Candace Owens.
Exactly. And we know this isn't true. Stacey Dash. you know, we
Charles
have,
Barkley.
Yes, Charles Barkley. You know, we have a lot of black people, a lot of mixed race people who are not on the side that their mother or their father repped for. And what I find really so enlightening about what was said is that, you know, we're remembering our history and remembering that some of our ancestors were not on the right side. Some of them were out here, they would do any, you know, it's kind of like that whole biblical scripture about, you know, Judas selling Jesus out for 30 pieces of silver,
it's
which
like,
is like literally $5. Like,
girl,
it's nothing. And there were people that were ready and willing to be so loved by the opposition, by the oppressor, that they were willing to put their, as she said, their own mama, their own papa, their own sisters, their own brother, through torture and trauma so that they could live the big life. And it reminds me too of Django Unchained.
Thank you.
Samuel L.
Jackson and
DiCaprio. Yeah, played the house Negro, and he would sell out every black person on that plantation simply because he was a favorite. He was the favorite.
So now that I want people to understand, I'm so glad that you talked about, you know, slavery, and let's get into, I think a lot of people, you know what I said to you guys the other day? I said, you know what, as much as I know every time what's going to happen in a lot of these cases, I get upset. And then I have to stop myself and realize that a system that was born out of keeping us down isn't going to help us. So I want people to understand, if you're watching live or you watch later, in the United States of America specifically, how the police system was even formed, right? Because I think if people have an understanding what happened in the police force and why it was formed, they will get why we can't receive justice. So this should take less than a minute, but so the first police force was formed in Boston in 1838, right? So in the North, the police in the North, which was Boston was considered the North, the police were actually there and they were hired to protect the property. And it was from the ports. So people were getting things from ports, and they wanted the police to protect the port of the items coming back and forth. So again, it was to protect their property and safeguard the transport of goods from the port of Boston to other places, right? So 1838, so in the North, it was to protect property, and specifically in Boston, the transport of goods. Right. In the South, the economics that drove the creation of the police forces was centered not on the protection of shipping interests, but on the preservation of the slavery system. Some of the primary policing institutions were the slave patrols, and they were tasked with chasing down runaways and preventing slave revolts. So understand this. We have a police system that was put together 162 years ago, if my math is right. That was actually put in, no, my math is very wrong, was 188 years ago. We're in 2020. Put together to keep us from being free. So let me repeat that. A police system was number one in the North to protect property. Okay, so to protect white people's property, let me just be more specific. It was to protect white people's property and the transport of goods. Now, you also have to understand that in that time, we were goods. Let's be clear. So don't think that the North, there wasn't slavery, because black people were goods. So they say goods, and you think tangible products. Well, we were tangible products.
We were the property.
We were good. We were sold as goods. So understand that, right? Read through the word goods. And in the South, it was specifically to make sure we didn't revolt and run away.
Right, basically.
So if we think that in 2020, despite there being almost 200 years, okay, even though 182, again, if I got my math right, 182 years ago, so the police, when we look at it, is fairly new. Slavery was 400, 500, 600 years ago, because we'll call it 1440 something, when they started, again, our kinfolk was selling us and telling us we were going to a land of free honey and whatever, only to find out that they had actually sold us for pennies on the dollar to help themselves, because the white man came in and sold them a bag of goods, right? So bring it back to 2020, Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump have sold Daniel Cameron at 33, however old he is, that who has really not lived any life and had any experience, and put him on a short list to be on the Supreme Court. I don't think he's actually tried proper cases. This is who we're dealing with. That is the man, okay, who made this decision. That is the man who went in front of the grand jury and presented what we now know was a case for a wall.
Yes.
He presented, a case for a wall. He brought up nothing. Absolutely nothing. He didn't talk about the 12 neighbors that did not hear anything about no knock, or a police coming in. They heard nothing. But they're going with the one neighbor who lied on 2 occasions. First thing, I heard nothing. Now all of a sudden, you know what? I did hear them say police, and they addressed themselves. He didn't bring that up. Or I guess he just went with that one neighbor, and they're using him as Bible and truth.
They only needed one, right?
No.
Like, we have to remember, too, that, and it's funny, you know, when you look at the form of a district attorney, you know, for me, when it comes to politics, I'm very weary of certain roles that are bought into, you know, the process. Because as long as this person is being led by a specific political party, there's never going to be justice.
Girl,
justice
amen,
comes
true.
from someone that is unbiased.
That's it.
The idea that he has his job because the Republicans got enough votes means that he is not going to ever be fair. This is why when we all talked, you said, Toshiba, you said, I don't have a good feeling about this. I'm like, and you said, because you already know. And I'm like, well, I already know the answer because he's a Republican and we already know what's going to happen. That's why we are not feeling comfortable about today, because we know exactly what's going to happen, which is exactly what happened.
And that's exactly what happened.
And Daniel, the thing is with the police, you know, you look at what they're supposed to be doing, and the police is, again, the police is built on so many foundations that do not serve people. You know, the reason why we even have guns is because white people needed a way to control slaves. That is why guns exist. That's why guns were invented.
To kill us all.
We're invented to kill us, because if we're running and we're faster runners and they can't catch up to us,
they shoot us in the back.
Shoot us. And therefore
in the back.
Care of the situation.
Thank you.
That's why they trained dogs to eat human meat, to run after us when we were trying to get off the plantation.
All of that.
So all of these violent actions, and this is why it gets me angry when people are like, you know, I don't really understand why things have to get so violent at these protests. I'm like, well, who was there to talk about the violence towards my ancestors when they were trying to seek freedom, or when they were trying to do something as simple as vote, or as simple as get bread for their babies? Violence was bestowed upon them, yet no one is talking about that violence. But you want to talk about me burning down a financial institution? So
we'll be fine. They'll be okay. The building will survive.
They're insured.
It's insured. They'll be fine.
Money is invented by us. It's not like a God-given thing that needs to fall from the ground. Print more money.
Point blank.
That's fine. Burn it down. That's fine, because it will be up within a month. It will be back again. So Daniel and his whole, how does he sleep at night? I don't know. But they're
very comfortable, apparently, with his wife.
Yeah.
And as he should be. I hope that everyone that sees him on the street makes him feel very uncomfortable. Because the fact that he went in front of a grand jury and fought a case for a wall. This fool, the cop that shot her dead, was basically charged for the bullets that missed her body. The ones that missed. Not the ones that ripped through her flesh as she sat there bleeding out, because they sent the ambulances away, which is only going against their own policy.
Yeah. And that also reminds me of, just to give a perception of what's happening in the world, we should also realize that cops never get charged. They never get charged. They never really end up paying for the crimes that they commit.
Never.
And I know this because in the Globe and Mail this week, there was an article about a police officer. They said this is rare, very rare, that a police officer was charged found guilty, and he's going to prison for an Indigenous woman who was having a medical episode, and he basically did nothing. He
Sounds
shot
about
her
right.
and or stabbed her. I can't even remember what the, you know, when you're reading something and your mind is just like, God, what is happening? And he left her to basically die.
Okay, sounds
He
about right.
didn't, right. He didn't do anything to help her. He didn't call for backup. He didn't call an ambulance.
No.
She died. And in a rare situation, the Globe and Mail said this does not happen. So they're very, very curious to know how it did. He was actually charged and he's going to prison. This is a big deal because police officers never actually get charged and then go to prison.
No.
Even if they get charged with second-degree murder, they most likely get off.
They magically get
all
off
the time.
because the people love the police department.
Right.
And they'll never turn their back on the police department.
Regardless of their behavior. Sorry,
it kills me that the same laws that they're supposed to be upholding, they seem to be above. Right?
Okay.
And I posted something today on my Instagram this morning, and it was basically a nurse who was speaking about the fact that if she were to go into the wrong patient's room and give them the wrong medication,
Okay.
and that medication caused that patient to die, she would be charged with negligence, because that's what it is. She would be fired from her job.
Yes.
She would face criminal charges, and she would likely go to jail.
Yes.
So her question was, what's the difference between my job and a police officer's? And at the end, she says, I'll wait.
Right.
She's gonna be
And
waiting for
Because
a very
you went
long time.
into a home of a woman who you claim, and you know what, I got into a tiff with somebody on, and you know what, like, Black men do better. Please,
Okay,
for the love of God.
so, you know what?
Please,
Bring
Black
that
men do
up.
better. We're tired. We carry a lot of load. We need you. So when Black men are coming out and saying, well, she was a drug dealer, well, her boyfriend shot at the cop, that's what he's supposed to do. Okay, let me tell you, I don't know.
Okay, so
I live in Louisville. I have a personal from June 2009 to June 2010. I personally live in Louisville, Kentucky. I still know people in Louisville, Kentucky. You understand that? So Louisville and Kentucky are open carry states.
Right.
So let me be very clear. He had a legal firearm.
Right.
This is a men in the way my father, raised us young ladies, and he's got 7 of us. You marry a man who protects and provides.
That's
right? That is what a man does. So here's a man with a legal firearm laying at night beside his woman. He hears a noise at his door. It's kick down, bang down, whatever they did. His automatic reaction is protect my home and my woman.
That's it.
So he gets his legal firearm and shoots at intruders. And someone wants me to believe that his action of protecting his property, because remember what I said before, let me be very clear what I said before. Police in the North were put together to protect property, while guns were brought in to keep us down. So here is a man protecting his property and protecting his woman. And people want me to believe that the one shot, and he was a good marksman because he hit with 1 bullet, should justify them 3 officers shooting 32 total shots
none
at
of which
these
shot him.
people.
None that shot him.
And none of them shot him.
But they ripped through
He
Breonna
was the
Taylor's
one,
body.
not saying that they should be shooting at anyone, but someone shoots at you, you shoot back at them, not at everything.
They shoot everything. They shot the whole place.
In the entire house, without even saying who the hell you are.
No knock, no announcement. The clothing was unmarked. They just marched on in. The man did what he had to do.
And for me, I look at it like this, and I'm going to compare this to a case that I heard about long time ago. Like, I was in college when I heard this story, and the story is about a man who had a legal firearm in his home, and it was Halloween night.
Oh, Jesus.
Now, the one thing that happens Halloween night, as we all know,
Pure foolishness.
one, one kid is going to knock on the door for trick-or-treating.
Yep.
The man is from Florida. So already,
so you know where this is going.
They have a certain law
And
that protects them. Someone knocked at his door and he heard laughing. He was scared. So guess what he did? He took out his legal firearm and started shooting, showering his door with bullets. He killed two kids. Killed two kids in their little adorable costumes. And guess how much time he got? He got absolutely none. Because he has a right to protect his house and he felt scared.
Of children laughing.
It was Halloween night, so technically he should have known better. Right? It was Halloween. Of course someone's going to knock on your door. It's Halloween night. You didn't need to start shooting at the door.
How about just sit there and not do anything?
Right, because
like a normal person.
And they're going to go away.
They'll go away.
Right? But he chose not to do that, and he got off.
Of course he did. George Zimmerman!
So, George Zimmerman is a great example as well, right?
Come on,
so the idea that, you know, you are the one that went to the house, you didn't present yourself.
Nope.
You didn't say, here is a warrant with today's date stating that we have the right to search your home. Because if it went down like that, Breonna Taylor would be at work today.
This story, none of this would have ever happened.
She would be at work today.
We wouldn't be having this discussion. The world wouldn't be in the state that's in right now. When it comes to Breonna, none of this would have happened.
Right.
Who executes a warrant at midnight for people who are actually not dangerous? She is not a queen pin as someone wanted me to believe.
No.
Apparently, Breonna Taylor is some queen pin. Listen, let me tell you something, and I'm going to say this very clear. I know drug dealers. I've known drug dealers. I grew up in the hood. Drug dealers, prostitutes, pimps, crackheads, they were all in my neighborhood, okay? See them all the time, okay? Let's be clear, okay? That no drug dealer I have ever known would be risking their life during coronavirus, working double shifts when they've got money and drugs in their home where they can give people, because people are now secluded inside of their homes because the whole fucking country has locked down, and therefore this is prime drug selling time because you can't be on them streets. Like, honestly, I cannot.
Drug dealers... Drug dealers are drug dealers because they don't want to work 9 to 5. They don't want to work the 16-hour shifts. That's why they're drug dealers.
And that's what really hurts.
So, based on that, why would a woman who is an EMT worker working 16-hour shifts all of a sudden be like, I'm also going to deal drugs while I work 16 hours a day? That is ridiculous.
And that's
with no drugs or money found in her home. Sorry, Telly. So you do that, and there are no drugs and money found in her home, but she's a queen drug dealer.
Let that be known as well, because they did all this mess to find absolutely nothing. And that's the part that bothers me the most. She was an EMT. She was studying to be a nurse. She was on their side, helping to fight law, helping with the law, helping with justice by helping to save lives. And they had no problem shooting her up, and not even, and I know that General Guy didn't do anything. He didn't bring anything to the grand jury. And all it shows is more and more each day how right Malcolm X was with his statement about Black women. We are the most disrespected thing.
Yeah.
Not even, you know what? We're the most hated thing on this freaking planet. Why they hate Black women, only Jesus knows. And I don't know.
I do want to delve.
Bugs me.
I do want to delve a bit into this because
I don't.
I want to talk about the aftermath of what this has done. You know, Breonna lost her life in this horrible way, and the world immediately started making noise. Social media posts, stickers on Instagram, magazine covers, hours worth of media and TV devoted to sharing her story, her image being showered all over the world. She's basically the most image seen on the planet since Princess Diana. This is how quickly she has gained this momentum, post, and this is the verdict that comes. My thing is as a Black woman, and I put this on my Instagram, and, thank you to all the people that reached out and asked if I was okay. But, that day, it was not a good day for being a Black woman.
No, it's not.
Because we were told that you aren't actually worthy, you aren't loved, and you are not valuable. That's what that verdict meant. And it hurt even more because a Black man had something to do with it. And that's what hurts. And
a man with black skin. Let's just be clear.
Yeah,
He's a man with black skin. He's not a Black man.
Black skin.
He's not Black to me.
Man.
He's nothing
And
to me.
then we have certain media, certain public figures like Charles Barkley, who come with excuses, who come with very thoughtless ideas as to what happened was right.
Because he was there.
And how do we now, as Black women, you know, yet again, being reminded that we don't hold value, what will it take for people to start valuing the Black female? And I say female because the same people that had something negative to say about Breonna Taylor, they were there repping for George.
Yep,
they were
and
there
Ahmaud.
repping for Ahmaud. They were there repping for, you know, Mike Brown. All of, you know what I mean? All of these other, you know, and God bless their souls, RIP. I'm not saying that anyone is more valuable than the other. But why is the Black woman an issue? Why is it that Charles Barkley is all about George Floyd, but he's not all about Breonna Taylor?
Yeah, and that's what that hurts, because you know the movement's called Black Lives Matter, but when you really think about it, it's like, actually no, it's Black men matter, because Black men are the same ones shoving Black women into the ground, as if we don't have a voice, as if we're not valued by anything, like you were saying. And then it hurts the more coming from a Black man. When we always sit on the time on our show, we're the ones on the front lines, arm in arm, marching for the Black man, saying, yes, Black lives matter, Black men matter. And then when it comes to for our own men to stand up for us, they find excuses. Oh, well, you know, he shot the cop in the foot, so that's okay for the cop to riddle this young woman's body? That's
one bullet to 32. Let's be clear. One bullet to 32. I'm going to repeat again for people who may be slow. One bullet for 32.
Okay. And
so please tell me that.
And even the timing. How many days did it take to even get a vote for the wall to get justice?
194 was it?
Okay.
Well, remember,
yeah, George, and like you said, no offense to the men that have been
I don't want to
murdered or
discount,
anything like that. Not discounting them, but everyone was quick to run to that defense, and I'm glad that they did. But why did it take so long for Breonna Taylor to even get a news article?
I think too.
Daniel Cameron was busy getting married, by the way. That's why it took him so long, because he was busy getting married in August to apparently Mitch McConnell's granddaughter.
You know,
and if you don't know who Mitch McConnell is, he's the leader of basically the House of the Republican Party, the House representative for the Republican Party.
I really question. I really question humanity. I just question humanity every damn day.
To me, like, another question that comes to mind is that, because I always try to find the root of things, you know, so I'm wondering about the root of the hate and disregard for Black women. And I'm also wondering, where does it begin for a Black person to start turning on themselves? Because Black people, you know, I love myself. And because I love myself, wherever I see myself mirrored, I'm going to help that person because, oh, they look like me. I want to know that person. They speak like me. They understand my culture. The most dangerous thing for the Black community is the Black-skinned person that's decided they're not going to stand for their own people.
Well,
and we've talked about many of these figures on this show before. And to me, the public enemy right now is Daniel, because
absolutely,
he showed his true colors.
You know, if he went in there and
we know where he stands,
ran that case the way how he would run any other case, you know, there would have been some. I mean, there would have been some justice. I mean, let's get a second degree. Let's get a second degree murder charge here, even on one.
And that's why they need to release the transcript. Let us know. The world has a right to know. Her family has a right
Absolutely,
to know.
we should know. We should know exactly
It should be
Let's
public.
see
what
you
can be presented.
It should be public knowledge, because
Right
you
to
know, just like any journalist should, a journalist should be able to go in and say, give that to me so we can put it in Time Magazine. Give that to me so we can, you know, post it up on any random, you know, blog, and people can read through it and decide for themselves as to what.
We know why he doesn't want to release them, because he went and fought for a wall. He did not fight for justice for Breonna. None of this was for Breonna. He couldn't have gone because he wouldn't uphold the deal he made with the devil. You understand that? That is how I look at Daniel Cameron. Daniel Cameron made a deal with the devil to get the position he's in. And to answer your question, Cartia, I think that's a very interesting question, because it was funny. Last night I did a implicit bias test, because it's something, if people don't know my business, my business is to help companies tackle biases that are unconscious biases that are in their organization. So I went and I did an implicit bias test on myself. And as you know, they basically say that, you know what, most people have an affinity to white faces. Well, apparently I was 2% of because they gave you the 2% of the people who had an affinity to black faces, because I associated good things with black people. Why? Because I'm a black woman. And so for me, just like Carcia said, when I see, listen, I could be jogging down the street, and if I see a black lady on the other side tumbles and falls, I'm running across the sprint to help her. If I see a child who's screaming and asking for help, I'm running down whoever, you know what I'm saying? Like, because again, these are people who look like me, who are like me, who I understand their lived experience is like mine. So I agree with you. When we see a Stacey Dash, a Danielle Cameron, a Candace Owen, who have so willingly sold themselves to the devil because of trying to get into higher positions, I question what happened in their lives that you now hate yourself that much. It's not that you hate me. You hate you, because when you turn your back so completely against black people, it's not that you're calling out our bullshit. I will call out black people's bullshit all day.
That's a totally different thing.
But for you to turn your back, sorry, I'm going to fight for this wall. This white woman, this black woman was a queen pin. She was a queen pin, guys. I know she was sleeping. We found no drugs. This is what happened. This is why those transcripts will not be released. And let me add something else, which I think is very interesting, because you mentioned something earlier about the disrespect that we get. So I sent you guys the article, but it is a very interesting article if people want to know. There is clearly, we all know facial recognition technology.
Oh, yes, I read that.
We have it on our phones. We have it pretty much everywhere. I think in some countries, it's probably at banks. There's just so much facial recognition technology. In recent studies that were done, 34% of the time, the facial recognition has an error for black women.
Yes.
Yep.
So 1 in 3 times, your phone, your bank, everything that you would have facial recognition would not acknowledge that you exist. The error rate for white men, or as they called it, fairer skinned men, white men, was 0.8%. So less than 1%. Okay? So black women, algorithms were written for facial recognition, and black women, 34% of the time, those algorithms do not recognize their facial features, but 0.8% of the time error rate for white men. So even within something because facial recognition will be taking over the world. It's going to usher us into the new world. Even algorithms don't recognize black women.
Nope. And I have to use the hashtag black women just to see black women and black men on my Instagram. You can't see it otherwise.
And I do want to say this. I feel very connected to this story because tech was my background. And I will say this. I want people to understand that everything that Toshiba just mentioned, remember, again, this is not a divine source. God didn't invent the algorithm. God didn't invent all of this. This was written by people.
Thank you.
If you've ever worked in a tech company, you know who writes the algorithms, because algorithms are written, it's written code.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you, because I've worked for some of the best in Toronto, and these codes are all written by white men.
Yeah.
White programmers. They write it. So of course it only recognizes them because they wrote it. So this is a call out. Black people need to get into tech.
We need to be everywhere.
We need to start writing the code. If we're not writing the code, we're left out. We need to write the code. And the problem is that right now, the reason why we're having issues with the algorithm, the reason why we're having problems with, you know, like Instagram should know that, oh, this is a Black female who likes clothes, who likes science, who likes whatever. But the algorithm sees us and says, this female likes clothes. And that's it. They're not saying this female has brown skin. She will probably love to learn about African culture. There's no connector because we're not writing it. And if we're not there to write it, who is? We can't expect white dudes to be like, oh, I know what Black girls are into. I know what a Black woman would love to know. I understand how a Black woman's features are different from each other. Remember, to the typical white guy, all Black girls look the same. I could walk down the street and say I'm Kerry Washington, and they'd be like, oh my gosh, that's Kerry Washington.
Of course.
Don't look a thing like her, but they would believe it. Why? Because they don't define the features of my face. That is why the algorithm works that way. That is why facial recognition works that way, because we don't write it, and we need to change that.
I just wanted to pause on that. I needed to just pause on that.
Yeah, the reason why a lot of this stuff is the way it is because we are not, and we say this a lot, we are not at the table.
Nope.
We need to start founding our own tech companies.
Yeah, because they're not going to hire us. We got to start our own.
We need to start becoming the founders of these companies that write these codes. That's how it will change. Because once we get it right, Apple and Microsoft, all of these companies who are having the issues, they will say, oh, there's this Black tech company in Toronto, and they understand the Black woman algorithm, facial recognition. They're either going to want to buy you out so they can get that technology, or they're going to hire you on as the director of that part of Microsoft. So there's only benefits to getting Black people to start doing. We can't depend on them. They're
no,
not
we're all we got. So
we're
that's
all we got.
one. We're all we got.
Which is why, again, Daniel, Stacey Dash, Owens, Candace Owens, and all these people disturb me because they have the platform, but they choose not to use it to see us.
Because they sold out to the devil.
They sold out hardcore. And that's the
thing
that say is true. Because you look at Fenty. Breonna said, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm going to start my own makeup company with every shade, from the fairest to the darkest.
Right.
Next thing you know, you saw L'Oreal.
Yeah.
You saw Revlon.
Yeah.
You saw Dior.
CoverGirl.
You saw all these other makeup brands doing the same thing. Why?
Because a Black woman came in there and changed it up.
And taking all the Black customers.
Right. And that's what needs to happen.
That's what happens in tech. In every single industry, we need to be there. If they won't hire us, okay, then we'll start our own. Make our own Wakanda.
And oh my God, someone said that today. And it's so true, right? Because the reality is, let me go back. The laws that are being used to uphold law right now were written when we were not free.
Right.
That's it. And
understand that.
Had to change it.
And the problem is that they're so married to it that they would sooner give up their children in a school shooting,
of course,
than change their constitution and change their laws.
And that's the sad part too, because in the normal world, for people being in slavery when they decided to write the laws of the land, you would have thought that when we were allegedly free, they wouldn't be like, okay, we're all on the even playing field. We have to change this law to suit everybody. But no, they continued with this law that doesn't serve us whatsoever. And the thing is, too, people need to understand, not just America. Canada has its issues, too.
Oh, so Canada got it,
people
too.
start thinking, oh, it's a state problem. Like, no.
It's a global pandemic.
It's a global problem. So don't think that none of us here, no three of us know that we're not off the hook here.
Canada is racist as all racist hell. Like, people wanna, let's be clear.
Right here
Canadians are polite people. We're not necessarily nice. We're polite, right? Polite people. And let me tell you something about polite racism. Okay? Polite racism causes mental health issues because it's constant microaggression. It's constant micro-invalidation. It's constant stabbing you in the back while smiling in your face. And I've said it, if I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000,000 times. I like my racism like I like my liquor, straight up. And the problem is Canadian racism is not straight up. Nope. And it is so ingrained in the fabric of our society that people can't even see it. We have a premier who's basically the equivalent of a governor who stood up and said, after our prime minister, who is the equivalent of the president, said systemic racism exists in Canada, the premier of Ontario, which is again like the governor, and Toronto is in Ontario. Toronto is the most diverse city in the entire world.
Thank you.
Not North America, the world. So the man who governs the province that has the most diverse city in the world stood up on camera and said, systemic racism does not exist in Canada, and specifically in Ontario.
He said, and thank you. Yes, remind the people what the damn idiot said.
And I do want to say that we have to start looking at, and I don't want to tell people what they should do with their life. That's not what I'm here to do. But I will say that you have to start looking at the age and the class of people that say the things they do. And, Doug Ford, I don't know how old he is, but he's an older white man who grew up in a family of privilege with old money. To be honest with you, I expected him to say that very thing because he's set up for it. He's set up for it. This man didn't go to university in the past 20 years like our prime minister who was in drama school and teaching. He's coming from a different place, even though he's also a man of privilege, definitely. But he sort of immersed himself into the real world, as in where Doug Ford has never really been a part of the real world because of how he grew up. And he doesn't want to be a part of the real world.
No.
Why would he? He's privileged. He's
a white man. He's got the golden ticket.
And he's got the golden ticket. He doesn't want to be. So when he said that, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I expected, because to me, him and Donald Trump are actually in the same box.
Oh my God, I was gonna say that.
Yeah,
Thank you for saying it.
They're from the same place.
Or they're in the same
They're the same people. They grew up the same way. They're probably, I think Doug Ford is younger than him, but they're coming from the same place. And that's why for me, when he said that, I was like, yeah, that's what I expected from you. Like,
and it's appalling that he would say something like that. Being in a city, like you were saying, Toshiba, where Toronto is so diverse, and for him to have the audacity to actually say that we have no racial problems here, everything's sweet and dandy like candy.
And I do want to say that in Toronto, I just want to let people know I was sitting in a car where a white man with a Czechoslovakian accent
told
was yelling
and our cab driver
told our cab driver, who was Indian, that he should go home to his country, and the man is Canadian. I've sat in a car where another man who was from Finland or some country of that nature yelled at a black girl and told her that she was a nigger and she should get back on the boat. And all of these times, these are all Canadian people that are being told to go home.
This is Canada.
I would be like, well, I don't need to go far because I'm already here.
Right here, but
You're the one that needs to go home.
You take
but
that
anyways,
plane ticket and go home.
You know, like I've been in situations where I've been hanging out with Asian friends and had people call them chinks. In Toronto.
In Toronto.
In Toronto. Blatant, real,
loud and
bold racism.
Bold. So, girl, again, I've lived in Las Vegas. I've lived in Jamaica. I've lived in Las Vegas, Nevada. I've lived in Louisville, Kentucky. I've lived in Toronto, Canada. In Toronto was the only place I've been called a nigger.
Okay.
And not just called a nigger, yelled.
Okay.
I was getting out of my car at a mall. You ladies will know, Dixie Valley Mall. I think I told you the story. Parked my car, getting out of my car to walk to go in the mall. A random white woman driving by winds down her window to yell profanities at me and call me a nigger. Again, I lived in Las Vegas, Nevada, and Louisville, Kentucky. And I was not called a nigger, but in Toronto, Canada, going about my merry way, I was called a nigger.
Yep.
So racism is in the fabric of North American society.
Exactly.
And we again cannot depend on laws that were written when we were not free. And let's be very clear, we're still not free because we are in indentured servitude. And indentured servitude is when you basically get paid to still serve.
That's it.
Yes.
Exactly so.
And we still have the issues. I mean, there are industries that are now just realizing that they had a problem, you know, and I was actually telling you yesterday, there's a fashion editor that I know, and white woman, and she works for Vogue magazine, and we've known her for years, and she went on that on her Instagram and said, listen, the Bay, she called out companies, the Bay in Canada, and said, these companies over here have committed to the 15% rule where they are going to now make changes in their organization because they realize that they aren't actually helping the world because they don't have enough black people at the table. And they're committed to changing this by December of this year. And some of them have already outdone it. Some people have done 25%. So congrats to those companies. But she's like, but what about companies like the Bay?
Okay.
She's like, you guys haven't made that commitment. And I'm here to ask you why. Because there is talent in the black community. I know of the talent. We see it every day, and these people should be at the table, and you still choose to not put them there. And I want you to tell me now why not. And I want everyone that sees this message to tag the Bay in their comments so the Bay can get blasted.
Yep.
And of course there was like 3,000 comments of people just going Hudson Bay, Hudson Bay, Hudson Bay, Hudson Bay, Hudson Bay. And I thought to myself, I was like, see, that is part of the problem. They don't see the problem. They're not becoming aware that this is wrong. Once you see something is wrong, you're going to correct it.
Fix it.
But if you're not seeing the wrong, which is why Doug Ford's saying, oh,
there's no
systemic racism in Canada. Him saying that means I don't see what's wrong here.
Of course you don't.
I don't see the wrong here. That is what's keeping our countries down. Because I don't see it, so therefore it doesn't exist.
And that's dangerous because you don't see it. It's blind to you. So all this madness is going on around you. You don't see anything.
Like, well, everything's fine to me because
you have your blinders up, so of course you don't see anything.
I'm looking at a tree changing colors right now outside the window. So that's all that matters right now is this tree changing colors.
No.
But you don't see
you don't see the police throwing over a young Native Indian girl or a Native Indigenous woman over a building. Yeah, you don't see that though.
You don't see the things that are going on in our community that are hurting our community.
Because if you live in a world where you only recognize what's in your view just like this, okay, you don't actually see the periphery. You don't see what's going on around you, right? And it's funny, when I was creating my business and pivoting my business, that was part of the reason I did it, because I started recognizing that, listen, we all have biases. Actually, biases make us survive. But the problem is when you have people in power where they only see the world through their own lens, and if they run companies and all they see is the world through their lens, within the fabric of their corporate culture, there is going to be issues, because not everybody in their company sees it through their lens. And so when you have someone, and we're going to go back to good old Daniel Cameron, who now has been programmed, thought, I mean, you know, I don't know his brought up, see, as Jamaicans would say, but I don't know how he grew up, but something tells me this is a world he's probably always wanted to be in, right?
I think he was obsessed.
And he got in. So he got his entrance pass and he does not want to leave. And so when you've got somebody who has Mitch McConnell as their mentor, who, again, before calling Breonna Taylor's family, because according to him, he called a couple of weeks ago, well, my dude, she's been dead since March. You got married in August, so you had plenty of time. Apparently, you were, and there was a whole shutdown, so the world shut down. You could have called her mother, had a conversation, but you know, you had to go get married, whatever you need to do.
What was happening in his life for April, May,
June,
you know?
July?
He's not the bride, so he's not doing any of the planning. I know how these men
Was
are.
the phone not working?
Exactly. He could have called.
He didn't send a letter,
time.
an email, smoke signal, something.
He had time.
He had more than enough time. The world shut down.
I'm pretty sure his wedding didn't look like a Hollywood celebrity. Let's get married in 3 different countries. I'm pretty sure that's not what his wedding was.
No, it did not.
Time.
He had more than enough time.
Okay. But when you sell your soul to the devil and you get entrance into a world and you don't want to lose the privilege that comes in this world, because Garcia, I remember you said it once, you know, Black men have white men privilege in the Black community, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of Black men, Daniel Cameron, Charles Barkley, right? Michael Jordan, who I despise with every fiber of my soul, right? They have this white men privilege in the Black community. And therefore, they also go around and they've forgotten this. And they go around with certain lenses because they've gotten this VIP pass to say, come into our world, and they don't want to lose it. And so the way they run in our circle of people is very different because they want to appease the massa, and that's a massive mentality.
Yes.
That's all right.
I mean, this, and you know, other people that I would say mixed race Tiger Woods, you know, people
like OJ Simpson.
Yeah, OJ.
You all saw what happened to him.
OJ, people that have recently entered, people like, you know, and I think he's funny, but the truth is, you know, Kevin Hart is part of this world now. And even Chris Tucker, you know, like people like this, these are our men, Black men, but do not count on them in the state of an emergency.
No, they'll be the first ones to turn their back.
They're not really going to be the J. Cole and and the Kendrick Lamars that are going to rap. Like, they're not going to. They're going to be like, I need to save.
No, they don't want to give up their white card.
I need to save Charlie.
They don't want to give up their lifestyle.
Or Kevin, or whatever the white guy's name is going to be.
And you're right, Kelly. They don't want to. Thank you. They don't want to give up. So Daniel Cameron failed, and that's been my hashtag since this all happened. Daniel Cameron failed. He failed. And we certainly hope that the FBI will do better, because now there is an FBI. They've taken it above. So there's 2 things I want to see, because I know we're coming close to time. 2 things I want to see happen with this case is the release of the transcript. And I'd like to find out what the actual investigators called the FBI are here to find out. What do they find out? Because a reporter said it best when she asked Daniel Cameron, we've been canvassing for months, and somehow you found the one person that heard this announcement at midnight, when we've literally canvassed for months and talked to dozens of people, but you found the one person.
You didn't hear anything.
And the same man who first said he heard nothing has now all of a sudden heard something.
Yeah.
I wonder at what price and how much he got for hearing something.
You know, I mean, I also ask that of every Black person that reps for Donald Trump. But, you know, let's have our last
Takeaways.
And listen, well, that's a good segue into next week's episode. But anyway.
So go ahead. I'll go ahead. Okay. So my thing is don't stop. There's still work to do. If you can take time out of your day to continue to fight for justice for Breonna Taylor, I'm not done. This is just one stepping stone. We're going all the way. She's gonna get more than a damn magazine cover.
Girl, yes. Yeah, my takeaway, Black women matter. And we gotta show up. We're not gonna take this as this way of sitting down and hiding who we are. We are Black, we are female, and we are fierce. And we're gonna continue to march. We're gonna continue to do whatever needs to be done. Not only for Breonna Taylor, but for every single Black woman, because we deserve respect. We deserve everything we've worked hard for, and we're gonna get it.
Love that. And I'm gonna take from your clip and earlier in the show, Telly, all skin folk ain't kinfolk.
Okay.
So let's not forget that people sold us out on slave ships. And that's the reason some of our families are here, because we got sold out on slave ship. And Daniel Cameron is a man with black skin, but he definitely ain't kinfolk. And so therefore we really have to make sure, and what Garcia said, get into places that we are not, so we can make the changes that need to be done. Because again, we cannot depend on a justice system that laws were written when we were slaves.